What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of Super Black Comic Book Reviews by Jonathan Soul. And I got a fantastic book for you this evening. What had happened was I went to my Twitter followers and I found a terrific creator by the name of Derek Lipscomb. He brings us the Maroon. Dun, 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 dun. All right, now, anybody who knows anything about African American or African history in the West, right? African history in the West, we know that Spanish, was it Spanish or French? Might have been French. They had enslaved some Africans, took them to Jamaica, and they wasn't having it. And so a significant number of them, did a tactical retreat. They took some machetes with them, and they commenced a guerrilla campaign of, freedom acquiring proportions. The French said, the hell with this. And they began to roll out. The British came in and said, oh, this ain't nothing but a thing. We got this. And then the Maroons commenced to open up a fresh can of ass whooping. See, the thing about it, all jokes aside, anytime you seek to enslave another human being, you already fucked up. As young people say, you all the way fucked up. You're already going to lose because human spirit is like water. You can only squeeze water so much. So anyway, they whipped the British ass to the point where the British, even though they had quote unquote superior weapons and all that kind of stuff, they end up suing for peace. Okay. So that's like the history that I remember about the Maroons. You guys can research whatever. What Derek did, and Derek had a wonderful team working with him. I don't know if the Coles are a couple or what, but he has W. Brian Cole and Rose Cole as story consultants. So Derek did the art, he did the story and the character creation, and then the Coles helped them with the story. All right, let's go. Starts out, he's on a run, right? He's running. He's being chased by some devils. Slave catchers. He's in Tennessee. And what had happened was he was accused of a crime he didn't commit. That sound familiar? Now, pause. I generally don't, like to promote or even review comics that have slavery narratives. Because I think that's our own personal hell. I don't believe in a literal hell. I studied too much history. I used to be a deep Christian. And, once you study some history long enough, I'm talking about real history. I'm not talking about I think my kids call it Hotep people. I'm talking about I went to the lecture and I sat in and listened to Ivan Vast Sherman break it down. He had the worst arthritis I've ever seen in my life. His hand looked like, God damn. You know what I mean? But his mind. I sat in the, audience with Malefic Asante. I seen, Ron Karinga. I don't know if he was Asian, but I seen Ron Karinga. You know what I'm saying? I had those experiences. You follow me? I got the books. I got the real shit. 13 crucified. Was it 13 crucified saviors or all that kind of stuff? But anyway, so I know myself. I'm about to go on a sidebar. So anyway, so he's running through the Tennessee. It's like the summer of 1950, so it's hot. 1850. And he comes across this Indian family. Father and his son, getting ready for the end of the day or whatever. And, I need a place to hide, whatever. Say, hey, listen, mister, we don't want no trouble. Kind of a thing. And so he sends him away. Sure enough, the slave catchers. That's why I keep making a mistake. The slave catchers come, and then the native brother, I believe in this story, he's Chickasaw, he actually sends them in the wrong direction. Thanks for that solid. Because if you study real history, there were some Indian nations that sold us out, brought us back to the white folks in chains, There are others that kept us, right? That's how the Seminoles are founded, if I remember correctly, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? So anyway, there were some things going on. So what makes the story interesting is that, okay, it's not just a brother, running away from the police. I mean, slave catchers. Derek kind of blends, because it's a lot of woods and all that kind of stuff. He blends some kind of, fantasy. So there's like, see this crazy monster bear that attacking this kid. And when the last time you seen a bear that that has tests like a woolly mammoth, you know what I mean? So anyway, so that's happening or whatever, and he survives the fight, but then they got to deal with the slave catcher people, So that's the thing that he goes through. There are 8 issues that I'm aware of at the time of this recording. I got 5 of them, the digital copies. I have a rule: I buy some digital stuff, and if I like it, I buy the print because I want to support the folks. And so I'm definitely going to buy the whole series. I got it from indieplanet.us, INDY, right? Planet.us, indie with a Y. And you can get the digital and the print. And so I got issue number 5. So on issue number 2, so he has this bear incident and dealing with the slave catchers or whatever. Now I'm not going to spoil anything, but my man is handy with an axe and a long sword. A long knife. I'm just telling you. He's very handy. He's very handy. You know what I mean? And in spite of these devils having guns and all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, so that's issue number 1. Issue number 2, he's helping, this fellow African person who's escaping this horrible, terrorism. And that's what it is, terrorism. It's just straight terrorism. And so he's hearing about this person called Moses. I think Moses. And obviously that's a code name and they do your history, for somebody who helps African people, on this, what they call the Underground Railroad. And then he mentions this quilt. And when I saw the quilt, I was like, yo, Derek, you going there, man? Really? You know what I mean? So it's like, you can enjoy this story on multiple levels. All right, so some stuff happened there. Issue number 3, I think it is. I'm looking at the cover. Issue number 3. He meets another mythical creature. You see this owl type creature. That's a very interesting story behind that, and I'm not going to tell you because why? I want you to buy the book. And so that's very interesting. Now, I'm going to stop here and tell you that this is like a mature themes kind of a thing. So, there's obviously very graphic violence. People get a face full of axe sometimes, and I'm not talking about the spray. And sometimes, there's some, I would say, artfully done sex scenes. Sometimes our hero gets lucky, you know what I mean? And, and so forth like that. So you have to, I wouldn't give this to children. Me personally, if my son was younger, I would give it to him maybe when he was like, I don't know, like 15, 16, so he can understand and he won't have nightmares because somebody catches axe in the face. And, he won't stop playing basketball because he sees a guy on top of a girl. You know what I mean? Why you in the house all day, son? You know what I mean? I don't think he would do that. So I would definitely, and obviously for collectors like myself who want these, to me, these are pieces of history. This is my second go around with this African American, this African art renaissance in the West. Well, it's not even in the West, but I'm familiar more with that. My brothers in West Africa is doing their thing. I was there in Philadelphia when we had the Black Art Expos and stuff, and there was a ton of people doing stuff. The Brother Man people and the Purge and the other folks in that collective selling millions of books, millions. And but not a lot of that work survived. You follow me? Some of that stuff didn't make it into the into 2018. And so I kind of consider it part of my personal mission to make sure that, I got a stash. I want to collect, like all of J.A. Rogers' books, for example. I want to collect, all of, the Black comics, obviously. Want to collect, come on, brain. Some of these other scholars or whatever. Some of the stuff that you're supposed to have to be conscious. I mean, real conscious, real history, not Hotep bullshit. But, 13 crucified saviors that came before Columbus, stuff like that. I got those books. You follow me? Even more the businessy type. Why should white guys have all the fun? What's the other one? Tony Brown wrote some books. If you guys remember Tony Brown's journal, kind of a thing. Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. I actually got that book and met the brother. Kimbo, is it? Kimbrough or something, So, but the comics, those books kind of, J.A. Rogers' books been around forever. 2000 Seasons, they've been around for a long time. The comics, they seem to be a little bit more ephemeral. And so I want to do my part to make sure it doesn't happen. So anyway, so buy these books. This is a great book. The way Derek writes, every issue ends on a cliffhanger. And I'm not bullshitting. It's like, oh, shit. I didn't know that. She's the, It's like, it's like, it flips. I'm telling you, the guy is a brilliant writer. The art is good. The art is good. And the character design in terms of the concepts behind them are incredible. So you see some of the fights with this owl creature, which is pretty horrible. You see the issue, the cover number 4. Another, so in the 80s, there was a lot of TV shows where the main character would wander. They would wander from place to place. In the 70s, there was a lot of hitchhiking going on across the country. I even read that Kerouac joint On the Road. I was like, white people choose to be poor and bum around the country for real? It's like, and that's hip. Oh my God. That's how I started to understand privilege. I was like, God damn, you choose to be poor on purpose and travel around the country to get fucked up, really? You know what I mean? But anyway, so in the 80s, there was a lot of, David Banner character, was it Incredible Hulk? People think about the monster, but if you think about it, it was kind of about this brother who traveled across the country helping people. Of course he had, the anger management problem, but, he was trying to, and it was a lot of, Kung Fu, even like the Kung Fu thing, James Carradine, which didn't he steal? The way I remember it, could be wrong. The way I remember it, didn't he steal Bruce Lee's idea for that traveling? Maybe he did, maybe the studio did, but the whole idea of a traveling kind of hero was prevalent throughout that time. There was even one with Wong. What's that brother's name? Wong. He was in wasn't he the same? Was it Russell Wong? He did it was a short-lived TV show called Vanishing Son. Anybody remember that? Asian brother traveling around the country or whatever, helping people out and disappearing. There was even one with like the samurai guy, and it started out where this apple would drop and he would swing a sword, a couple times, and then the apple would fall and it bust into like 4 pieces or what. Y'all, I don't remember that. What's the point? The point is that, with that idea of your character traveling through the country, meeting different people, interacting, getting into scrapes, you find out about the character, the protagonist, and then you find out about the country. You follow me? So Derek is kind of painting the picture of America, during this middle 1800s period, and again, it's a little mystical, but, if it wouldn't be compelling if it wasn't rooted in truth. You follow me? All right. So anyway, so here's the issue. Here's the cover number 5. And this is the last one that I got, with some serious fighting in here. There's some very interesting, reverses of fortune, so to speak. And my favorite one of my favorite parts. It's happened a couple of different times when these oppressors, they thank the Lord or whatever, whatever. And again, if you're not hip to history, you might think, well, this is just what they would say. But the whole idea of both groups, right? The white people who are the terrorists in this scenario, and then the black people who are the terrorized, both of them believing in the same God and same religion, but both having different outcomes. It reminds me of the slave narrative I read. I was if you guys ever get a chance, go to LibriVox.org. Libra, like free, Vox, like voice, .org. And what they do is they take people volunteer to read books, right? Make audio books. And what they do is they find stuff that has fallen out of copyright. You'd be surprised how much dope stuff has fallen out of copyright. But what I was looking for was black stuff, right? Black artists or whatever, black writers. And I didn't find that many. So I ended up, surfing and finding slave narratives, right? There was this one in particular. It was so fucking boss. As boss as it can be. But the devil just bought, the woman, the young lady, 20-some years old, off the auction block. And this guy had a reputation for raping, all of his slaves or whatever. And she said something to the effect of, the Lord will get you if you, harm me. And they talked in that language. If you, I forget what the word is, besmirch my honor, whatever they said. And then he said, well, I think the Lord, blessed me and delivered you into my hands. And I had already been out the Matrix for 10 years. But when I read that, I was like, wow. As my daughter would say, wow. It's like, but the voodoo is deep. You know what I mean? And so even that, that's how religion is so strong. Even these kind of things won't, if you need Christ, solid, right on. Hope y'all do well together. If you don't, you know what I mean? So either way, I brought up to say that there are layers to this book that I enjoyed. Maybe some of this stuff might go over some people's heads. You know what I mean? But there was one part where this guy is shooting at the Maroon. And by the way, when we're introduced to the character, he doesn't have a name. He's just called the Maroon by the people that are chasing him. Now, there's, I think it was issue 2. This one woman gives him a name, but that's not, his name. All we know is he's Seminole, right? African, I think it's African father, Indian mother, something like that. And again, that's a real vibration. And, so there was one part where the guy's shooting at him and the Maroon is jumping up in the air with his knife. And the guy said, Jesus. And then Maroon said, he ain't gonna help you now. It's like, God damn. Oh man, I enjoyed that so much. So The Maroon is a book that you will definitely enjoy. You got to get in your collection. You got to have it, the digital file, which I think at the time of this recording is like 99 cents. And the books, I think, are $4 a piece or something around that line. But whatever it costs, support the brother. Derek built a very strong, free black man in the person of the Maroon. And you need to read this book. Go to indieplanet.us, indieplanet.us to pick up the book. All right? All right, then. This is Jonathan Soul, johnathansoul.com. You can go to my website and you can hear interviews where I interview artists and writers and comic book creators and sci-fi people. Every now and then you hear somebody who's tangential, right, to this kind of industry. So I might interview a cosplayer, might interview a voiceover artist, might interview a video game graphics designer. You know, to me, that's kind of all fantasy, and it's black people doing it, and that excites me. And also, I got a book out, Malcolm Mars. You're like, had to be Malcolm, didn't it? Yeah, man. When you write, the characters, once you get that rhythm, the characters kind of speak to you. And so they name themselves, you know what I mean? And actually, I didn't come up with the name to the end of the book. Long story short, 3 black men went to HBCUs, got their families, wife and kids, and a tragedy struck one of the families, and the father didn't like what was happening in the court system, so he got justice his own damn self. And because of that, they had to do a tactical retreat in their homemade spaceship, and hence Malcolm Mars. Check out the book. It's in the electronic book, the Kindle format, so you can look at it on your iPhone or your Android phone or your Kindle or your iPad. Or do people even buy Android tablets anymore? But anyway, I love you guys. Go support the book, and it's on Amazon. So you can go to Amazon, look up Jonathan Soul, Malcolm Mars, and you'll find it. And you can go to johnathansoul.com. There's a link there too. Love you guys. Hope your dreams come true. And of course, support my mans and them, Derek Lipscomb, the Maroon. Love you guys. Jonathan Soul. Peace.